Gone Home has received a vast amount of positive critical reception, despite being what some sects of games media call a walking simulator. I'm not so convinced that Gone Home is a walking sim, so much as it is a novel brought to life. Welcome to my first narrative analysis video here on An Author Plays. Before I get into the discussion, I wanted to mention that when I first came up with the idea for this channel, that this game is one of the few that inspired me to dig deep into game narrative analysis. I mean, it's not like the game had a fascinating game mechanic or intense multiplayer to keep players intrigued, so something had to be done right to earn so much critical praise, yeah? Alright, so here's how this will work. I'm gonna go through 4 key aspects that I think help make or break a story. The gameplay design choices, the characters we're presented with, the dialogue of and from these characters, and finally, the overarching narrative. Over the course of the journey, I'll make some jokes, throw in some good visuals, and bang, we have a video. First, gameplay. Well, there's not much to say here in terms of our options. We can pick things up, set them down, and look around as we walk, and that's really about it. This makes sense, considering that, as a character, we're nothing special. Just a college girl fresh from her European romp. Heck, you can even find the postcards our character sent all around the house. Nice touch, developers. Our lack of options is definitely what caught me off guard the first time I played this game. I didn't know anything about this game when I first played it, so when the storm rolled in and the ghost story started flying, I was convinced this was a horror game, and I think rightfully so. Good horror games deprive players of options, but I guess this is kind of beside the point. The simplicity of the game mechanics here is what helps convey that we're just an ordinary gal trying to find out why our haunted house is empty, rather than teaming with the people that totally should have been there for our welcome home party. Before I get into the characters though, I do want to touch on the dialogue, or rather, the lack thereof. Sure, people talk to us, but it isn't dialogue between two people. Instead, it's a narration from a collection of pages we find at the end of the game in our sister's folder. This narration sums up the events leading to Sam's reason why she isn't home. Stupid teenagers, always running away and being all dramatic and whatnot. What this narration does for the story at large is clue us into the fact that this is all in the past, and most importantly, out of our control. We can't stop Sam from leaving. She's already gone. Silly work uniform thrown out and everything. In other words, we get a story without gameplay or dialogue, just words on a page and clues in the house. And thus, we arrive at what is the most important factor for this game, the characters. Not only do we learn a little bit about each member of the family, but we're introduced to the previous owner of the house, Sam's and our mother's friends, and even a few editors from our father's work. Their stories are our stories to understand as we explore, and we learn so much in the process. Sam was having a rough time in school, and Lonnie was her way of fitting in and discovering herself. Our parents didn't like it because, you know, the 90s. Speaking of them, our dad wasn't doing so great. His first book was a big hit, but the ones after that just kinda fizzled into mediocrity. And that probably didn't feel too good compared to Mom, who rose up through the park ranger ladder, essentially, earning herself a fancy new position and being the reason we moved in the first place. Our dad picked up technical writing to fill in the gaps, but he didn't seem good at it. Yeah, plus, you know, porn. In the interest of time, I want to move away from the character stories themselves. We saw enough of that in the Let's Plays. Instead, I want to talk about why this style of storytelling worked. Unlike many games that we play that take place in fantastic and/or foreign places, this takes place in a regular home. And regular is the key word here. These are people we can relate to, including our so-called rebel sister. Nobody out there in the world, except maybe those who are not yet old enough, can say that they weren't themselves at one point a teenager, trying to carve themselves a place in this world. This video came out in 2015, a time where, at least in the United States, gay marriage was just legalized, or at the very least recognized nationally. This game's setting is 20 years before that, in a time where homosexuality is still considered improper or distasteful to quite a few people. And that's a hard realization to have for someone so young, to know that their sexuality, something that they had no control over, is something that a lot of society ends up looking down upon. It's not hard to see why Sam and Lonnie got up and left. They went to go find their own place in the world, a sort of personal mecca that they could go to and call their own. Sure, the whole situation reeks of teenage drama and bullcrap, but can anybody out there truly say that they didn't do something around as equally stupid when they were teenagers? The moral of the story is that characters really help drive a narrative in games. It doesn't matter necessarily what the control scheme is, or what the graphics look like, if they're cutting edge or not, if you don't have strong characters, then they're going to end up being faded faces in our memories and in mediocrity. I hope you enjoyed this analysis about Gone Home, or really its characters. If you did, don't hesitate to leave me a like or pen me a comment, and subscribe if you want to see the next series I'm going to be doing, Dishonored.